Conrad Dobler has been called a lot of names. Nastiest man in pro football, the dirtiest man in the NFL, and also he's been called an All-Pro. 3 times he was an All-Pro. He was part of one of the best offensive lines in NFL history, a line that protected quarterback Jim Hart and the Big Reds' running attack like they were Picassos. Well, sort of. They set an NFL record for the fewest sacks in a season. Conrad didn't mind all the labels that players and media hung on him. In fact, he probably used that to his advantage. His reputation and the name-calling overshadowed the fact that Conrad Dobler was a hell of a football player. His post-playing career has been a challenge, though, that few could handle. He's had I've read, more than 30 knee operations, other physical problems. His wife is a quadriplegic because of a fall 15 years ago, but Conrad is a tough, strong guy, and he's handled it. He will always be one of our favorites, and tonight we welcome back home Conrad Dobler into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Tom Ackerman of KMOX Radio will do the interview.
Wherever you want to sit is good with me. Yeah, I'm going to sit over here.
You sit next to me.
Of course I'm going to sit next to you. What an honor to be here. What an honor to be here to enshrine Conrad Dobler, ladies and gentlemen. You look great, by the way.
Well, thank you. Do we have to date now?
Yeah, we do. No, I wanted to start with this because my friend Dennis Dillon writes in your St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame program this lead. He was accused of punching Mean Joe Green, spitting on Bill Berge, and kicking Merlin Olsen in the head. He freely admits that he bit Doug Sutherland. He once made an opposing player cry on the field. What a way to start. How much of that is accurate?
Well, there's a few things wrong. Doug Sutherland bit me. That's how I learned the technique. Well, I was a young man. It was the NFL, and it was my first year. We were playing Minnesota, and I caught him under the chin, and he grabbed my wrist, and he bit my thumb, and he would have bit through it, but his top retainer came out. And so I was thinking, hell, it's the NFL. I guess that's what you do when you get into a professional league like this. So that's kind of false because he bit me, but he taught me a great technique. I don't think I ever spit on a guy. Well, maybe I did. I don't know.
Did you make someone cry?
Now, that was Bill Brundage. And it was so funny because he dropped to his knees. He was for the Washington Redskins. He started to cry, and Tom Banks starts yelling, "You made him cry! You made him cry!" I said, "Hey, would you calm down? I got him right where I want him. I don't want you to get him pissed off now." Okay? And, of course, what was the other one? Mean Joe Green. Well,
Mean Joe Green, that's a good one.
That's the best way to get the guy's hands down. When they jump up to try to knock down a pass, the solar plexus is just so inviting.
Could you sense as the game was going on that you were wearing somebody out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You tried to do that. You tried to wear them down, and hopefully they wore down before you did.
Intimidation was naturally part of it, or did you try?
Sometimes it's built up more than it is. I don't think you can intimidate someone on the field, but I think because of the reputation and because of what the press made of it, I think that a lot of coaches would basically take a lot of these players out of the game before they even got up against me. They would say, listen, he's going to get you angry, he's going to get mad, so don't retaliate, don't punch him. And, these guys are professional athletes, defensive linemen. They're not the brightest people in the world, okay? But the defensive linemen, and it doesn't take a lot to get in between and to get on their minds, There's a lot of space up there between the ears. So what you do is you try to take them out of the game, and their coaches would preach to them so much about that they were intimidated before they walked on the field.
I can't go any further without mentioning, he's already been recognized tonight, but the greatest offensive line coach in the history of football is here, Jim Hanifin.
Oh, and let me add to that, I was a pretty, ragged football player. I played defense my senior year at the University of Wyoming, and Jim taught a lot of players how to play the game right, the proper techniques and things of that nature. And I was really a diamond in the rough, and he had a lot of smoothing to do. I probably wore down a lot of Brillo pads and sandpaper with him smoothing me out. But you guys are so lucky that he's here because he's probably one of the greatest offensive coaches. If they had situation at the Hall of Fame, the National Hall of Fame for assistant coaches, he certainly should be there.
Absolutely.
And of course, I see a lot of my old teammates here. You know, the thing is, so often in football, everyone gets so concerned about their own life. You know, when Don Coryell came into the league, he made us a family. And you never forget those days when you have the friendships you developed as Jim Otis. I've seen Jim Otis tonight, Steve Jones, Jackie Smith. We've been friends for 30 years. I mean, it's hard to believe that I have friends, but well, they say they're friends.
When we talk about the greatest show on turf and these great offenses in league history, that was an excellent, great offense in the 1970s. It really starts in the trenches. What an incredible offensive line. What was the common bond between all of you? What a line that was.
I think the common bond is we had so much pride in each other that we didn't want to let the other guy down. And even though we went through the season, now we set the record in the NFL for 8 sacks. Now that's not necessarily correct because one of the sacks they sacked it was a bad snap on an extra point, and Jim Bakken had to cover the ball, and they charged it against the offensive line, and a lot of us weren't even in the game then. So, and then we can take another one where a back missed one and this and that. But so if Jim really wanted the NFL to the league and tried to get that removed, but they wouldn't remove it because I guess they didn't have a category to put it down. So we actually went through, in reality, through the season with 7 sacks, and that's something that I'm very, very proud of because, as you know, offensive linemen, we never get any credit. We do all the work, get none of the credit.
How about your Hall of Fame teammate, Jackie Smith? What can you say about him?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. You go to Jackie, and he was like 48 years old when I got there. And the guy was in such great shape. He would hit the field running at practice, and he would run till we left the field. He was an inspiration, but not only was an inspiration, but you know, if I was ever in the alley with someone taking my back, that's the guy I want.
St. Louis, yeah, absolutely. I feel like St. Louis took an unnecessary hit as not a great football town. It's ridiculous. It was a great football town. The Rams stunk for the last decade. But before that, this was an intimidating atmosphere. And this was a football town, make no mistake about it, in the 1970s.
Oh, I think the town was, of course, I was a young man when I came here, so I wasn't that familiar with the things, but the fans in St. Louis were always wonderful. All the sports, whether it be the Blues, whether it be the baseball Cardinals, whether it be the football Cardinals, they were wonderful people. But unfortunately, you suffer from a thing of population base, and there's only X amount of dollars with the population base, and owners, you know, with the salaries and things, they're going to go where they can get the most money. And that's kind of bad because, you know, they took a lot away from the players because what a place to raise your kids and stuff, St. Louis. What a place to live.
It's well said. And finally, to be in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, what does that mean to you, Conrad?
Well, I think it's always nice when people recognize you, what you've done in your previous life, I would say, as a football player. That's quite nice to have it. But yeah, I didn't do it alone. I mean, I always considered it, and Jim Hannafin always said we win and lose as a team, and I was only as good as the Tom Banks next to me and Dan Dierdorf on the other side, and we worked well together. And it was kind of funny when we would go into a game, we'd always sit there and people, you know, would kind of fire each other up, but you know, Dan and I would look at each other and we just knew no one could beat us. we just felt sorry for them.
I do want to say this also on behalf of the folks here and the football fans and all the players who play today and enjoy success. Thank you for all that you did for the game and for all of us and to all of your teammates. Thank you for playing hard and being tough and doing what you did for the league and for us as fans.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think there's a lot of orthopedic surgeons that thank me too.
Conrad Dobler.
Yeah, those days of the Big Red, especially the Cardiac Cardinals, were really some great football time. Yeah, they didn't have much success in the postseason, but they were exciting in the old ballpark.